according to you, are white people devils?
Yep. But now, with that being said, white people come from the black man, and the original devil, the strongest devil, is the black devil. So are white people devils by themselves? No. They come from a stronger version of the devil, which was the original black man.
Hey, what is up there, guys, and welcome back to a brand new episode of The Evolve. How you guys doing on today? Man, I'm doing all right. You know, today I wanted to get a little bit more serious, and I wanted to talk to you just a little bit about the 5% Nation. Because this is a movement, a religion. Well, this particular group started here in the 1960s. They don't necessarily want to be called a religion. They are stated to be more of a lifestyle and a movement. It is something that it is a nation, it is a movement in which some of our famous hip-hop, some of the famous hip-hop stars that you may not even realize they are a part of it in some way, in its beliefs and its standards and how it generally operates. People like you've seen in the intro, like Lord Jamar and Brand Nubian, Rakim, Nas, Wu-Tang Clan. These are all people that were a part of the 5 and that are a part and believe in the 5% Nation. Now, what is the 5% Nation, and how are the parallels quite vivid with regards to racism and bigotry? Well, that's what I want to talk about on today. I want to explain a little bit more about the 5% Nation and why I believe, Lord Jamar and some of the other rappers and some of the people today are like they are. And it's because of this, what they are in, this 5% Nation. Okay, so the 5% Nation, this religion, this movement, it was started by a man by the name of Clarence Smith. Now, Clarence Smith, he was a student of Malcolm X. He was a part of and then he joined and he became a part of the Nation of Islam. Now, Clarence, once he became a part of the Nation of Islam, his name got changed from Clarence Smith to Clarence 13X. But then, as he was learning under Malcolm X and he started teaching other young, and he became a minister inside of the Nation of Islam, there were a few things that he didn't like. Two things mainly. One, he found out that the author and the founder of the Nation of Islam is actually light-skinned and not pure black, and this kind of triggered him, so to speak. And not just that, but he didn't really believe in, he didn't follow the belief that that God was separate from human. You see, Clarence, he believed that we were gods and that we could become gods through knowledge and really enlightenment. So he got out of the Nation of Islam and he started his own movement, and he called it the 5% Nation, or Nation of Gods. And this particular teaching, basically, it taught that through knowledge and enlightenment and obedience, you can become a god. And that the black man was the original male. They believed the 5%. And what he did was, in 1964, he target young. For the first thing he did, Clarence did, is he changed his name to Allah the Father. He changed his name to that. And most of his followers, they called him Father. And meaning Allah, meaning God, but they called him Allah the Father because it was a time in the 1960s, it was a time of heavy racism and people going, and in the black and white, it was at its peak with regards to racism. So, and poverty. So when Clarence wanted to get followers for his teaching, he found the perfect time and the perfect audience. He went to young, black, poverty, at-risk males, and he was their father figure. Most of them wasn't fathers, so they called him father. He told them that you can be a god, you are a god, and he preached. And sometimes, in this movement, the 5%, you would hear things like the white devil, like you heard Lord Jamar stated in the intro. But he taught that the black man was the original male, and we are empowered, and he taught black power and a lot of different teaching. And these young black males and this following, it start getting bigger because it was at a time of racism, and people in the blacks, they needed a sense of belonging, and someone to give them a sense of belonging that they cared. And that's what Clarence, or Allah the God, brought to them in his teaching.
Law school in Mecca, and this is where
you can say it was basically fighting racism with racism. In the 1960s, blacks were depraved, and they were knocked down, they were pushed aside. It was heavy racism from white America. But then Clarence comes around and he fights that by empowering black people and telling them that you are gods and that you are better than the white, you are the god, and you can become a god. And like I said, and it was the FBI later around 1965, they open up a case and they start surveilling the 5% as they were getting bigger. They open up a case, and they're finding in some of these case files, they label the 5% as a unreachable, and you know what? Here is a clip of a ex member of the 5%, and he talks a little bit about what he learned from the 5% and why he got out. Here's the clip.
Just wanted to share a little bit with you tonight. Came up in this Western culture. I went to church and just religious, went to church, but didn't have a relationship with the true and living God. Didn't have a relationship with God. When I became a little bit older, I became a part of something called, I was a 5%er, the Nation of Gods and Earth. 5% is very militant in what I believed. Believed that the black man was God, white people were devils. Very militant. Was taught at a young age, taught very young. Had the spirit of murder, had the mentality of a murderer. I was taught that, hey, it was okay to take their lives. So was very militant with what I believed. Learned in their teaching that I was God. I am God. That's what we were taught.
So why did they call themselves the 5%? You see, the 5% nation, just like the Nation of Islam, they go off of this concept that 85% of the world is ignorant to the fact of knowledge and its beginning and the origin of the black man and just what's really going on. 85% of the world is ignorant. But then there is 10% of the world that knows the truth. And that 10% is trying to keep the 85% ignorant because they want to be the only ones that know the truth. So then you're left with just 5%. Now the 5% is the percent that is trying to do the opposite of what the 10% is doing, which is the 5% is trying to enlighten the 85% of their godliness that they can achieve and that they are the original, people and the black male, and the 5% nation, they had women in there. So basically, if you talking in Lord Jamar's term, Eminem is not just a guest inside of hip hop, but the white man in general is a guest to the earth, so to speak, is basically what the 5% when you think about it. And you know what? But you know what? That's the thing. You see, because, you know, I hear people like your Bazzino and your Lord Jamar when they say that he is the guest inside of here and the guest inside of this culture with regards to white people. You know, I don't think many understand just what he meant and what they mean when they say that. As I research and learn more about the 5% Nation and kind of what they believe and what they think and how they are driven, you know, I've learned that when they said that he was a guest, they didn't mean inside of hip hop. They kind of meant inside of the culture and not the culture of hip hop, because it's clear that they don't care too much about the hip hop culture in general. They're no longer a part of it. They no longer really cared or really was in it. People like your Nick Cannon and Lord Jamar, they didn't really care about the hip hop and the very foundation of hip hop and how it's being built today. But it was more about the culture. Not the culture of hip hop, but the culture of black people, the culture of the 5% Nation. Because the 5% Nation, it was not a religion, it was a culture, it was a movement, it is a lifestyle. And it is a culture in which black people are empowered, in which black people are taught that they are gods. There's not this, the 5% Nation, they don't believe in a God. They don't believe that there is a higher power, but they believe that we are gods. There is no God outside of human. The black people are the human. So there is no room inside of this culture for the white devil. There's no room for your white people or your M&Ms. That's, you know, as you get to learn what they're thinking and what they are following, you learn this, and you can see, you know, you can see how this can bring forth a sense of racism. You can see why this type of teaching can create a divide instead of mending the pieces together. Back then, you know, in the 1960s, when this movement and this culture started, as far as the 5% Nation, I can kind of there can be an argument to be made that it was something that was warranted. It was essential. It was needed, you know, to because black people, they were going through racism and hate and demoralization and a lot of they were taught that they were nothing. But then to have someone come into your life and say that you are great, you are powerful, keep moving, here is the supreme mathematics, here's some teaching, get your education, you are a god, don't worry about the white devil, you can do this, you know, it was kind of needed during those times. But a time like this, to carry that bigotry and to carry that, you know, till today, where there is freedom, where there is change and there is grace and there is steps, you know, when you bring that old theologically, that old thinking, you know, to today, it just comes off as racist. And like I said, the FBI, even back then, you know, because of some of the things they were saying and some of the little things that the 5% Nation was doing and the kind of the hate and bigotry, they had labeled them as a gang of it was an anti-white gang. You know, they had put that reputation on them. So even back then, I mean, you got the people like Nas and Public Enemy, Lord Jamar, Brand Nubian, Rakim, Wu-Tang Clan. Even Jay-Z was wearing a 5% necklace the other day. Not the other day, but about 2 years ago. So you got quite a few people that follow these teachings. Still today, the 5% Nation. And like I said, I don't agree with it at all. It's not something that is warranted and needed. today. I think that was a time, it wasn't a religion, but it was a time of inspiration. It was something that Allah the Father, who they follow, inspired them and needed. But today we've got to get over it. We've got to do better, Lord Jamar. We got to do better, Nick Cannon. We've got to do better, Bazino. We got to do better. We got to do better as people. We got to do better racism in general. So, other than that there, guys, I thank you all for watching this whole video. I think it'd probably be like 12, 13 minutes long. As always, I hope I enlighten you just a little bit about kind of what we're dealing with in the 5% nation and all that other good stuff. But at the end of the day, I just say that, guys, that hate for the sake of hate, it gets us nowhere. I mean, you can't have a negative plus a negative, it never equals a positive, only in integers. And life is not integers and mathematics and equations. I mean, life is real life with real people with real feelings. So we got to get ourselves together, and we've got to be better, in the things that we say and the choices that we make every single day. When your inspiration is coming at the cost of someone else's individual rights and demoralization, then you need to rethink what you believe and what you are doing. Other than that, I thank you guys for watching. I will see you all in the very next episode. KIP, keep it positive.